It's tough. You know, you have to do some things with scheme to help them out, but ultimately, you got to have players, and that's where we've been, hampered at the defensive line position with those injuries, and we just got to not use it as an excuse, but understand that when we get these guys back, we really are going to have to put our foot down and get to work.
I know things are limited. You haven't put pads on or anything yet, but what are you first seeing out of Shy Tuttle over these first 2 days?
Yeah, Shy's an extremely mature young man. He's working extremely hard, and he runs well for a young guy at his size. And it's too early, like you said, to tell exactly how he's going to be, but I'm sure glad he's here. I can say that.
Speaking of big guys, Charles Mosley, getting his first look on defense.
Right.
What do you need to see from him to be able to?
Charles obviously had that injury, and so he's been working hard, rehabbing. They had to go in and do some things to the leg to try and get him ready, even to this point. But it's just a matter of time, and it's just him working hard, and trying to get back out there.
How creative are you having to be with the lack of depth, whether it be
Austin,
linebacker or defensive line?
Yeah, that's a good question, because you don't want to be so creative that you're teaching them things that you're not going to do, and we anticipate getting those guys back. And so with the Andrew Butchers, the Shy Tuttles, the guys that are injured, we don't want to teach them something different than what we're going to do in the fall. So you're going to kind of got to bite the bullet a little bit in terms of you're not developing those guys up front, and there's some things that you could probably do scheme-wise, but it's not going to be how you're going to function in the fall, so you really would go through and waste a whole spring. So we've just stayed the course, going to work on the things that I know we're going to implement in the fall, and just continue to get better.
What do you like about Dylan at inside linebacker?
Yeah, I like Dylan. Dylan can move. He can change direction. He's a great athlete. He's, he really did some good things the first day. He came out and he was nervous, and he was making all the calls at the middle linebacker position, which was new for him. And you could see him just really calming himself down throughout the course of practice and getting better. And by the end of the practice, he was moving pretty good.
When you guys were recruiting him, did you envision that move for him, or is this something just out of necessity?
No. Dylan can play all three linebacker positions, outside, inside, Sam, Mike, or Will. And to be honest with you, the days of the big old Mike linebacker in there, them running ISO, it's not that. The game is lateral. It's quick screens on the perimeter. What we ask our Mike linebacker to do, they got to be able to run. They do. So that's a positive, having Dylan there.
Is there still a big difference between the Will and the Mike? I mean, obviously.
Not really.
Yeah.
Other
than calling the play is all there is.
Well, there is differences, but
right.
As far as what you're looking for as an athletic guy, you're looking for the same guy. Is what I'm saying.
John, just how more athletic are you guys at that second level with the linebacker than you were when you got here? How much more can they run? How much more ground can they cover?
Yeah, I think we've improved not only at linebacker, but at all of our defensive positions in terms of guys being able to run and change direction and move. And certainly that's so huge in our game that you got to have athletes. I always say you never see a mule win the Kentucky Derby. And so you got to have those guys, especially defensively, with what offenses are doing now with the run pass option. The linemen are blocking down the field, and it gets frustrating at times. But you got to have guys on the field that can run and make plays for you.
You got some guys that are not here yet, but likely will factor and fall. Justin Morgan and Khalil McKenzie. Do you hear much from those guys pertaining to just them going over the playbook and stuff?
We'd like to think that we could talk to them or send them stuff over really, they're not. I mean, they need the coach there. They need to make mistakes. They need to get it corrected. I think our system is very teachable. I think our system has a lot of really good rules that those guys, once they get here and are able to just hear the language, we can get those guys ready for the first game. I'm pretty confident in that.
Kermit Jett had a really good year. I think 12 sacks last year. How similar will his role be this year?
Same. He needs to get about 18 sacks this year. That's the only difference.
So he'll be playing some end and some
Yeah.
linebackers.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I think that's good for Kurt, to be able to do that, and it keeps him engaged, and he's smart enough to handle it. And so we're not changing that.
John, I think you probably are talking about it at the middle linebacker spot, or really just the other linebacker spots beyond Jalen. Kind of, who are some kind of guys you're kind of looking at and want to see what they can do?
Yeah,
these next few weeks.
Yeah, we were looking at, obviously Darren Kirkland, but he's not playing, so he's just getting a lot of mental reps, doing a lot of things with him in terms of walkthroughs. But Elliott Berry, Chris Weatherd, those guys have all, been getting reps over at the will linebacker position. So we just got to keep working, And it's so early. I mean, you have 2 practices in the helmets, and you think you have an idea. And I'm not kidding you, it changes when you get the pads on. It all changes. So ask me next week, and I'll have a different answer for you.
Coach Jones has addressed this, but the fact that you guys only have 5 healthy defensive linemen, just how is that going to change things for you in terms of just plan of practices throughout the spring?
It's not going to change. I'm going to do what we're going to do in the fall, so that the Butchers, the Shy Tuttles, the Kirklands, the Kyle Phillips, all those guys are getting the teaching as best they can, even though I know those guys are injured. But you would be just wasting the whole spring if you tried to say, well, we don't have any D linemen, let's run a 3-4 scheme, and then when the fall hits, you're back to what you would have done if you had all the healthy guys. So that's kind of been my approach. We've got to be smart, but the teaching component has to be what you think you're going to do in the fall.
But I guess as far as reps and stuff like that, how you kind of handle how many guys,
Oh,
how many they're playing.
yeah. Well, we got two deep at the D line. That's it. 2 groups. So 4 and 4. Yep.
I want to just ask a little bit more about Dylan, basically, in terms of just his ability to process. Is that something you guys liked about him from the beginning? Just, did you kind of think he had the mentality for that?
Yeah, I think he has the mentality to really coach himself. I really do. I see Dylan. He came out, the first day, and we moved him to Mike, and that's a tremendous responsibility for any linebacker. And he was really nervous. You could see it, and he was kind of making mistakes. He's like, I got it. And by the end of practice, had really calmed himself down, got into a good rhythm, was making the calls really crisp, with some confidence. So I'm really proud of him after that first day of just being able to coach himself.
Did he know that was coming? Did he know he was going to get moved to Mike?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Did you look at that as still a kind of experimental situation, or do you think he's got after seeing him for a couple of days, you think Mike is a decent fit for him?
Ryan, I'll be honest with you. I've been saying it this whole interview. We haven't played football. We've been running around in helmets. And I'm telling you the truth. It all changes when you put the pads on. Some guys get worse. Some guys get better. And that's the nature of our game. It's a contact sport. So that's when people start to separate themselves. Okay, good. Thank you.